And we should be good. We have with us Erin from UDBapp. Really excited she was able to do this very last minute. We just kind of give people what has transpired is we thought, okay, we got this app. We got into some budgeting things and was maybe not what we anticipated, but we got some really good deals worked out with them, and they've been really good to us on that. And also really support it. We had a lot of support from our administration, just so you know. So when I said, "Hey, by the way, it's going to cost this," they said, "Yeah, yeah, that's it. This is what your team needs. This is a great thing. Your team thinks this is necessary." I said, "Yes," and they said, "Okay, here we go. We're doing it." So that's just took us a while to get to this point, and we got everything. And UDB is being really great about getting us ready to go even before we have a purchase order, I think, to them because the school board won't meet until next week. So they've been really helpful, and I appreciate the assistance they've given us. So I'm going to turn it over to Erin, who is going to take us through a demo, and there will be time for questions if you guys have questions, especially those of you who have used it, questions about the transition and all of that. So great. Thanks, Erin. Thanks for being here.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. My name is Erin. I'm the Director of Operations at Ultimate Drillbook. So we're gonna kind of just crash course through a demo. I want to encourage you to interrupt me at any time if you have a question about a particular feature or something I've said that doesn't make sense. The first thing that I will talk about is how to get students onto UDBapp. UDBapp is free from the App Store. You can go on to the Google Play Store or the Apple Store and you can download the app right now. It is just a husk, it is a shell, and the students will not be able to access any content until they are provided with the ensemble code and the ensemble password. These will come to you in an activation email, which I will actually send right after this meeting. I will send all of the activation information to all four schools. So you'll have that. You can mess around with it when you have time, if you have any remaining time left today. But you can mess around with it and start getting drill in there. So that activation email will have like a paragraph of introduction. It will have a bunch of resources to our knowledge base for additional questions. It will have a student walkthrough video, which is going to sound very similar to what I am about to walk through on the app with you. And then it is also going to have 3 paragraphs. In that paragraph, the first one is for directors. The second one is for ensemble and staff members. And then the third one is for designers or drill writers. So the ensemble password is this, or sorry, the ensemble code is the same for all 3 of those users. There is a director password, which allows you to have admin access. You can have as many directors on an account as you want. So you can have, if you have a percussion director and a guard director, you can have everyone be a director. Just keep in mind that that is the person who can delete drill files from the app. And they can also delete people from the app, which is why the kids do not get that password. The second chunk in that section is ensemble and staff. If you have staff like returning graduates who are just helping you out with the band, I highly recommend just letting them join as a staff member instead of giving them that director admin access. But that's the ensemble code and ensemble password. And then the designer chunk explains a bunch of things about how Piware works, how to export drill from Piware, and then there is the ensemble code and designer password for the purpose of getting drill from Piware to UDBapp. So that's all information that's coming at you real soon. But I am going to share my screen and we are going to look at UDBapp just for a couple of minutes. And like I said, please interrupt if you have any questions. The one thing that I will say is I am actually sharing this directly from my laptop screen. So I have a M1 M chip series Apple computer. I'm not an Apple person normally, but UDB made me. And I can see UDBapp on my laptop. So this does work on M series laptops if you would like to use that. So here is our home screen for the students. The very first time they open UDBapp, it's going to ask them for the ensemble code and the ensemble password, and then it's going to ask them to create a unique account. They will need to use their a email of their choice and also a password of their choice. I highly recommend they use a password that they use for school already. We don't support like a single sign-on system, but God forbid they forget that password. It just makes everything annoying. There is a password recovery system, but you don't want to deal with that at the beginning of rehearsal the very next day. So once they do that, they will be able to see the ensemble information. They will be able to set a profile picture, which you can decide what is acceptable for them to have as their profile picture. Mine is of my dog Biscuit. If you have students who are marching drum corps or have transferred or have used UDBapp somewhere else, they will already have an account, and all they need to do is press these three dots in the corner, and then you can see the bajillion ensembles that I am a part of. But they would click the Add Ensemble button, type in the ensemble code and the ensemble password, and then boom, they are in. To find their drill files, they are going to click on the UDB tile. So I'm going to click on this, and you can see I have a bunch of drill files. This is the only time the phone needs to be connected to Wi-Fi or data, is when they are initially receiving a drill file or if updates to that drill file have been made. So we can see that a bunch of these have the download option. That means I have never opened them, whereas this high school drill sample has a circle that is filled in, which means that it is downloaded and I have it selected. So the download, they just click download. It takes like 3 seconds, depending on if you have any insane props or anything. If you have insane props that are in the Pyware file, it will take just a spot longer. But now you can see that just depending on which one I have the circle filled in is the one that I have selected. If your drill designer updates a drill file, then this download button will just say update instead of download. Easy peasy. So I'm going to click open. I am logged in as a staff member, but if I was a marcher, if I had selected the role marcher, the first thing it's going to ask me the first time I go into a drill file is what my dot is. So on the left-hand side, it will say, what section are you? And so there, it will populate all of the letters that are in the drill file. And then on the right-hand side, once they select a section, it will ask for them to select a number. So from a student side, if we zoom in and we say that I am T9, then it will highlight their dot yellow every time they open this drill file. They cannot unselect themselves. They would have to go to settings and then switch marcher. They would have to do a bunch of things to unselect themselves. So thank goodness for that. It is a default view for these to be dots. You can change them so that they use the Pyware symbols or make little X's. We have just found that dots are by far the easiest to see the drill. So the first thing that the students are going to do, you don't have a choice, they're going to do this, is they're going to see a play button and they're going to play. So this show starts off with a hold, which is fantastic and lovely. But this is going to show them the animation, and it's going to play the music of the show with them. So it's going through the counts. We're on 16. We're going pretty quickly. I wish Stuart hadn't written a hold here, but there we go. So our beautiful marcher, our T9 selected, has a bunch of lines coming out of them to indicate where they came from and where they are going to. So I highly recommend just letting the kids mess around with the app as soon as they get it. They're gonna want to watch the show, and you want them to watch the show. We do get blips as to when students are watching or when students are accessing the app. And we get a crazy amount of pings at like 2 to 5 a.m. where they're just at home and watching the show. And I think that's the kind of excitement you want them to have. So I am going to move ahead, and I'm just flipping through sets by using the plus and minus button. Here's a pretty decent one. So our T9 marcher is provided with a bunch of information. So the information bar is the top of the screen, as whereas our navigation bar is the right hand side. So the information bar includes what set or page number we're on, how many counts are in that set, your crossing counts. If you are to cross a yard line, what count do you do that on? If you cross multiple yard lines during a set, it will include both numbers. And then obviously what your coordinate is. Whatever terminology your drill designer puts in Piware is the terminology that appears here. So if you use side 1, side 2, side A, side B, Mark and Peter, it'll be there. So our lines that are coming from our performer, the yellow dot is where are you right now in this set? The red line, where did you just come from? And the green line is where are you going to in the next set? The smaller circle halfway through is the midpoint. Yay. And then these will obviously just change from set to set. So the students are always presented with 3 sets of visual information on every page. We can also toggle into count mode. So now you'll see that this coordinate has turned yellow. And that's because this is now a coordinate for this count. So if I were to flip ahead, so we're actually in the mid set. So we now have a drop down menu for this coordinate for every single count of every single set. So you can very, very, very easily clean quarter sets, mid sets, moves that involve windows, pinwheels, circles, you know, your general nightmare sets where it's just like one side of the circle is kind of deflated. The count mode makes it very, very, very easy to do this. Very, very easy to clean. We can also switch back to page mode. So now when we use the plus and minus sign, instead of moving count by count, we are back to moving page by page. And if I were to click on that coordinate like I just did in count mode, this is now just a coordinate sheet. So students are generally used to seeing a coordinate sheet. So if you have any seniors who are like, how dare you take my coordinate sheet away from me? It's still there, I promise. It's just now on your phone. This can also act as a table of contents. So if you want to start on set 19, if you just go and click on 19, the music, the drill has shuffled us to set 19. Do you have any questions so far? I'm seeing thumbs up and I'm seeing nods. Cool, perfect. Okay, so that's really all the students need for learning drill. There are a couple hidden pieces of information that your freshmen, I guarantee you the freshmen will not use at all, or new marchers are not going to use at all, but it might help some upperclassmen. If we click on counts, this also tells us what measures of the music we are working in. And if we click it again, it will also show you the title. So this is usually for rehearsal letters and numbers. This drill designer has used it to re-emphasize what the move is. So this is a unique one where it's move 10, hold 4. So they've used the title section to indicate that for additional notes. The one that they're really not going to use, but is awesome for experienced marchers, is in crossing counts. It will calculate your step size for you. So students learn at an 8 to 5. This is a 9 to 5. Students can at least gauge, like, am I taking way bigger steps? Am I taking slightly smaller steps? Am I barely moving? Am I teleporting across the football field? So you can get some interesting ones in here. I don't know if this one here we go. 28 to 5 is a fun one. It's a fun game to play with your students too, where it's just like, if you're marching at 28 to 5, bigger steps, smaller steps, way bigger steps, way smaller steps, that kind of thing, just so they start associating the meaning of those numbers. There is also a section for notes. So right down here, we have oh my God, the number I is what I was about to say, the letter I. And this is where all of the production notes go. These also can appear as a text box on the drill. It just depends if you have those enabled in settings or if your drill designer hides them from you. But we can click this eye and we can see a better layout of these production notes if my computer will cooperate with me. Sorry, guys, give me 1 second. Fun. Hmm, that has not happened before. Okay. Well, if you click that eye, it will show you these exact production notes. That is also a spot for the director to write notes. Students and staff members cannot write on that page whatsoever, but they do have a section for their own notes. That is also a spot where students can upload PDFs of their sheet music. We have a whole set of tutorials on this very part of the process. I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to reshare the screen, and hopefully that kicks my computer's butt into not freezing. Except it didn't. Okay, so in the information, I'm going to pull up the application again in the background and see what happened there. There we go. But I do want to show you where the students can add sheet music, because it is a handy thing to have at hand. So here we go. So we're in the drill file. We have long pressed the letter I, and now we get this eighth note that is where we can upload sheet music. So this, because I don't have anything added here, it brings us to a document manager. And you can just click this file folder to add a file from Google Drive or Dropbox or local files. Local files always work better than trusting a third-party application to upload them from. And so how this process has been most successful for my bands in the past is I have made a Google Drive folder for my students that is separated by instrument. And then I said, download your part to your phone. So all they have to do is click on their instrument. There's their marching band music. They download it to their phone. And then within this document manager, they can use this file folder, select the file from their phone, and then they click the check mark, and then it will be associated with the drill file that it is in. There's also spots to tag the drill sets on that sheet music. So those look like little pins like you would put in a cork board, and they have numbers on them. So they would be like, for set 1, this is where it starts on measure 1, and then set 2 starts at measure 8. And the kids can just drag and drop those pins into the sheet music. We have completely dedicated videos and tutorials for that entire process, because it just takes a minute to figure out, like, okay, I want to drop the pin on this measure. And then the document manager is just anytime there's a little file folder image up in the top right. And I'll show you what I talked through, unless this freezes again on me, but I am long clicking the eighth note so I can get the I. If I click the I, here are the production notes. If I click on this clipboard, these are now personal notes. So you can draw things. There are some stock shapes in here. You can change the colors. You can also take pictures. So one thing that I have seen in the director notes, if we're in here, is that if you have a particularly tall tower, some directors will take pictures of what the set looks like on day 1, put it in these production sheets, and then the next time it maybe looks a little bit better, maybe wait until the set actually looks clean. They will take another picture and they'll put it right underneath the old one, where it's like, okay, so see what this looked like 2 weeks ago. Now it looks like this. Great job, everyone. Awesome. So, and that's all found in the pencil icon. That's where you can write things, you can type text, you can upload pictures, and students can do that individually too. So another nice thing to have them do is you could, for instance, have a freshman take a picture of the process of a horns up. So have your section leaders demonstrate, like, okay, this is what your feet look like, freshmen take a picture. This is what your horn angle looks like, freshmen take a picture of that. And then that can live on their opening set drill files. They can have those pictures live there so they can reference back to them. So that is a very quick, down and dirty overview demo of UDBapp. Does anybody have any questions, or does anybody like they can not just be about the functionality of the app, they can be pedagogy based as well?
I just got a question about um, all the information from Pieware coming over to UDB.
Sure.
Um, so the other director at our school is the one that is our designer.
Mhm.
Um, so with those information boxes and then any extra information outside of the dots, what does everything get transferred over and is it recognized by UDB right away? Or do we need to re-put in that information that counts the holds, anything like that? Like what is automatically transferred?
Everything that is in the production sheet of Pieware. So there is a like pop out box that is called the production sheet. And that is where that information will transfer over from. The only way that it will not transfer that information is that there are drill designers who just put information in like manually made text boxes, and those will not transfer over. It's just the text information that is in the production sheet.
Okay.
We also, on that knowledge base that I mentioned earlier, that you'll all receive a link to, there is a best practices for Pieware, which is just like how to set the settings on Pieware to make the drill look the prettiest on UDBapp. So like yesterday, we got a drill designer call in that was just like that was asking a million questions about mid subsets. He's like, "Well, I don't want the subsets to be there," and we had to. Thankfully, we have a drill designer on staff, and I could give that drill designer to our drill designer, and they could talk nerdy about Pieware. So we have someone at UDB. His name's Stuart Schulman, who is a Pieware whiz. If you run into anything particularly strange while moving the drill files from Pieware to UDBapp.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question sort of related to the process of implementing this. It seems likely to me that we should probably like get with our drill designer and our roster and assign everybody a dot before we ever broach the topic of UDB with our students. Like, make sure everybody's assigned a place so that when they log in, like, it just seems like is that what people are doing, or like, I mean, how does the rollout work, or are there best practices for the rollout of UDB?
It really depends on your band and your band's needs. We have tons of bands who just use if you're a new UDBapp user, we'll put a demo file in your account that everyone can see, and they'll just tell their kids to select a random dot because that one doesn't matter. So they can start using or figuring out what the buttons of the app do. And your students are going to figure it out like in 5 seconds because they're born and raised with technology. They have a weird intuition around it all. And they're going to click every button and know, and know what it does. So we'll include those demo drill files. I highly recommend uploading your show from last year into UDBapp as well. So your returning marchers can like, yeah, this was my dot last year. Oh yeah, this is exactly what I did. This is what my pathways looked like. Yeah, this was a follow leader, blah, blah, so on and so forth. And they'll make that connection that much faster because it's a show that they're already familiar with.
Oscar. Just out of curiosity, how many licenses is each school going to get? Like enough for each student, or is it just like a blanket number and we're dishing it out throughout the district? I don't know what we've talked about.
I have I have numbers. Let me see if I can find that information quickly.
I think I have it here too.
Yes.
This was just based on what your committee was thinking. UDB, there.
120 for Washington, 230 for Lincoln, 110 for Roosevelt, and 100 for Jefferson. Hopefully those numbers are ballparked correctly. It is no problem at all for us to add licenses. There are countless directors who call us and say, "Hi, I am standing in front of my band and we ran out of licenses." We will not ask questions. We will just add them to your account. Like, your kids need them now, you need them now, we'll give them to you. It's not an issue at all.
And if you know you need some more right now, we have purchased more than what those numbers equal to. So we will shift where we need to.
Any other questions? Any other questions about UDBapp?
I got one question about just like the physicality of having the phone out in the sun for
Yeah,
band camp hours.
totally.
Have you ran into a lot of situations where phones overheat, or do you know good solutions to help prevent that or anything like that?
So specifically with phones overheating, that mostly happens with directors leaving their iPads out on bleachers. That is the number one scenario where that happens. The students on average are only looking at their phones for about 45 seconds. If you're going set by set, an example of how you might have them use UDBapp is say like, "Hey, all right, we're doing set 1 to 2. I want you to watch the animation. I want you to walk to your set 2 dot. I want you to watch the animation again, go back to set 1, and then we're going to march." So for them to watch the animation, maybe check their step size, check their crossing count, obviously check their coordinate, their phone's only out of their pocket for maybe a minute for them to do all those things, and then it goes back in the pocket. So that does have a conversation about pockets. Girl shorts don't have pockets. They never will. So kids are rocking fanny packs again. It's a thing. I don't know for how long that'll be a thing, but if you would like to encourage them to purchase their own fanny pack, that is recommended. You can also talk to your local Home Depot or Lowe's and ask for a donation of those little work aprons that they have. Usually Home Depot and Lowe's are pretty cool about working with local bands. It's pretty cheap to buy a bundle of 50 from like a restaurant depot or like a restaurant supply chain, because they're waitress aprons. And those have very large pockets. They can keep chalk in them. They can keep a hand fan, whatever they need for rehearsal, including their phone. So overheating, typically not a problem. Battery usage is slightly different because it is dependent on what the student has running in the background. So if they have apps like Snapchat and TikTok that are constantly pinging for notifications or sending them push notifications, their phone is going to die a lot faster. UDBapp itself doesn't use a lot of battery, but I would just get them in the habit of closing out their apps and making sure that UDBapp is the only thing running. We have lots of groups that have made charging stations in their band room. So during the school year, kids will come in from math class and then plug their phone in. Now they don't have their phone during math class, so that's great. But then their phone is charged and ready for rehearsal.
And then does the UDBapp work on like airplane mode, stop those notifications from
It
coming?
does.
Okay, cool.
Yes. Yeah, the only time it would need to not be in airplane mode is to download or update drill.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else? I can talk about Stride TV if we're unfamiliar with that, because that is also another app that your district has purchased for you. It's an app and it is also a browser. Not a browser, it's a web page. So let me just share this with you really quickly because it's a very, very cool resource. But Stride TV is our online video platform. It is very small now, but it is going to be very, very large within the coming months if all of our plans go to plan. So right now, the Stride TV is the home of our virtual curriculum and then a couple drum corps centric shows, as well as a podcast called Fem Forte. So I'll start with the virtual curriculum. The virtual curriculum was born from a need from the pandemic where people needed, I'm sorry, that my dog is here. People needed access to resources to teach and for the students to still learn marching band while they were at home. So we have created, right now, there are 2 verticals on the virtual curriculum. They are for marching and movement. So marching features, I think, 8 videos that are led by Lindsay Schuler, who's the drill designer for the troopers, and our director of education, Reed Atkinson. It just goes over the fundamentals of marching. So playing these at the beginning of rehearsal, where it's just like, hey, like this is up on the projector. You're following along with this as soon as you're set up before we move out to the field. Or this is something that will be available to your students to have at home. So you could assign these videos as like homework per se. So that is the marching section. The movement one is all based on choreography. So this is Michael Rosales from the Breakdown Camp and Samia Vanderkolk from the Bluecoats. And then actually on Wednesday, we are adding the a color guard vertical. So it's Tykeem Rainey, who is from Santa Clara. He's like breaking down the fundamentals of flag work. So that I believe is 10 videos long. So that'd be a great resource for color guards as well. Also on Stride TV, like I mentioned, we have 2. There's the callback, and then there's inside drum corps. This is a bunch of designers and choreographers going through older drum corps shows, or last year's drum corps shows. And then the callback is all about auditioning for drum corps. So kids submitted their audition tapes, and then drum corps staff kind of broke them down and said what's good and what's not good. So there's actually a lot of really good conducting tidbits in there. And then Fem Forte is a podcast that just highlights phenomenal women in the arts. And so that, and our old virtual curriculum is still on there if you would like a blast from the past and some really good curriculum filmed on an iPhone. We will be transitioning that off as our new virtual curriculum kind of takes over, but we kind of like it. We thought it was good. It was good for the time, but we will replace it with better quality video. Any questions? Any questions at all about anything about Ultimate Drill Book, about virtual curriculum? Anything that you guys can think that I can help you with? Well, that's all I have then.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone. We'll put this on the Fine Arts Handbook, so if you need to come back to it, and you will get some information that will, in an email shortly, that will have all of the information you need, new or returning. And if you've used it last year, your account just will be transferring over, so everything still will work like you have in the past. Just we'll be paying for it. It's the big thing. So, all right. Thanks all. Have a great day. Aaron, thank you again. And everyone have a great Tuesday.
It was great meeting all of you. Thanks.
Thank you.